Okay, I'm going to try to do 3 questions in this video. I'm going to try to keep it as brief as I can because we've got a lot of questions to go, and I'm going to try to keep this as succinct as I can. So here we go. Question number 1 of this series, which is having to do with gender roles. Can you please unpack what biblical gender roles practically look like for our context of 2017 San Luis Obispo for church, family, workplace, and parenting? I think really for the most part, it's going to look like how you prayerfully ask God what it would look like. In other words, I think if you're married, of course, you're going to need to come together and seek God together as a couple to kind of figure out what that looks like within the context of the family. It will take time to prayerfully come together and see what type of jobs are available, different types of tasks that need to be divvied up amongst spouses. As far as the church is concerned, I think it looks very similar to what Scripture would have always kind of laid it out as, which is to be involved in the church family, to love and devote your time and your attention, your energy, your resources, your money to that church. Money is a way of investment. It's a way of saying I'm completely in on what this thing is all about. And as far as parenting, again, a lot of it has to do with coming together and trying to work together as a team to prayerfully figure out how to best raise and disciple and coach along your little ones. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful. Question number 2 in this series. Great references to Kathy Keller is Calvary Slow's stance on women in leadership in concurrence with her conclusion that women are forbidden to be pastors and elders. Well, I would say this. I have found Kathy Keller's writing to be very helpful for me personally. I read it. I'm not sure who else amongst us, our leadership team ultimately read it. I would probably say that we're all into some very close agreement with each other, obviously, on the matter, which is pretty close to what Kathy Keller describes. That as far as the teaching with authority role, aka pastor/elder, we would definitely find some level of concurrence with her conclusions on that. Definitely, yes. Which I would say for the most part, one other addition I would lay alongside of that is that has been the historic perspective for 2,000 years, that throughout church history, that has been pretty much, for the most part, how the church has reacted and worked through a lot of those things. So I think she provides a pretty historically accurate exegesis of those passages that have to do with church leadership and government and so on and so forth. Governance, I should say, church governance, not government in terms of secular government. All right, another one. We'll wrap it up for this video. Does the Bible contain any gender-specific chastisement for men in the church? Why are women singled out when setting boundaries for orderly worship? I don't know if I would suggest in any way, shape, or form that women are singled out. I think in one context, Paul was writing in Corinth to the Corinthians about some circumstances that were going on. But I think Paul also brought attention to men. There was a guy in the church gathering that was actually engaged in some form of sexual deviancy that Paul actually corrected. There's another passage in which Paul actually writes regarding men, that if men are not working and not providing for the family, then they're actually worse than an infidel, or worse than an unbeliever, which is a pretty strong indictment against someone that is not doing their job or doing their duty to provide or take care of, as opposed to being, obviously being lazy or not being someone that is taking care of the responsibilities that are for them. And I think the reason for that goes back to the idea that God has an order, and the order in which God has established is to ultimately reflect him. And when that order is perverted or messed up or not functioning or flowing in the way that God designed it, then it's not properly reflecting his nature, his character in this world, which ultimately brings life and flourishing and hope. When it's distorted, it brings brokenness and hurt and destruction. So that's it for these round of 3 questions.